平和を維持するためには我々は一層の努力が必要でしょう。
Hello everyone and welcome back to the Our Anime Podcast. I'm Shocking807 and today we're here to talk about a very popular, very fun movie that I know a lot of people have been very passionate about in different ways. And of course we're talking about Promare. So talking about Promare with me today, I got Fate Steel Taylor. How are you doing?
Good. Honestly, I thought you were going to talk about your favorite anime film, I Want to Eat Your Pancreas, which was also popular. But I think this one, while Promare has no pancreas topics in general, I think, still managed this to be a really amazing, fun film, and excited to talk about it with everyone today.
I agree. We can save the pancreas talk for another time, but that we do feel passionate about that in very different ways. We also have Crispy joining us today. How are you doing?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
Good. We also have Kavrik.
Hey.
Nice to talk to you again.
Yeah. Hello. I'm burning with desire to talk about this movie.
Ooh.
I'm glad we got the burning of, what is it?
Burnish.
I already forgot.
Burnish.
Mad burnish puns.
Mad burn.
I was going to call it flaming burnish, and I'm like, that's definitely not it.
I'm okay with it being flaming.
Flaming burnish.
Sounds like a great band name.
It does, actually. It does sound pretty cool. And we also have Nazreem. How are you doing?
Hello. I'm doing alright. This is a weird time in the world, so...
Yeah.
Sure.
It's a very weird time. It's a very interesting time to talk about something like Promare, which so many of us got to go experience in movie theaters around the US and worldwide. I think worldwide. I'm not sure if it was showing worldwide.
It was at least showing in Japan and Korea and China.
It was showing in Japan.
Yeah, so even if it only showed in the US and Japan, that's technically worldwide.
Mr. Worldwide. Yeah. So, because I remember some of our Euro friends complaining about how they couldn't see it, so I don't know how worldwide it was, but it was, technically worldwide. But so many of us got to go see it in theaters, at conventions, so it's kind of like the exact opposite state we're in now, where we're in quarantine and we can't see anyone and we can't go to theaters. So, it's kind of nice to look back on these fun times, and still think about a fun movie that made us feel like we were really burning up, I guess.
For you, baby. Sorry.
Oh,
yeah,
God.
You did it.
I had to. Jonas Brothers have rights, I think.
They've come back.
They've come back. This is true.
They've come back. It's kind of, that's a good connection because, so we were going to start this off by kind of giving a brief background on the director of Promare, because a lot of the Promare talk kind of starts at the beginning, especially with a lot of our expectations for what we thought Promare would be. So we wanted to just give a quick background run on Imaishi, the director, who originally worked on Gurren Lagann and then is also known for Kill la Kill, and he was one of the major founders of Studio Trigger. So he kind of brought that energy and is really known for his over-the-top, fun, very high-energy productions. So... Didn't he also
direct Inferno Cop and Space Patrol Luluco?
Yes.
He did.
Yes.
He did.
I thought so.
He's done a lot.
Inferno Cop's so good.
Yeah, we gotta love Inferno Cop because they
also
visited
he did
New Jersey.
whatchamacallit, Panty and Stocking with Garter Belt.
Yep.
Yes, he did.
Oh yeah, that was him.
Which Shaw, you're dropping the ball. He's done
I was
so
trying
many
to focus
things.
on the main ones that people know, but you guys are giving his whole background
Everyone knows Inferno Cop. Inferno Cop, I think...
Inferno Cop is pretty memeable. Yeah.
It is.
It's probably his best work by far. At least most memeable work.
So you would call it his best.
With that. I would agree with that second statement. I don't know about that. Definitely most memeable.
Everyone please remember that Fate said that Inferno Cop was Imaishi's best work. Please.
It's the only one in which he saves New Jersey.
That is true. We do need to be saved. Where's Inferno Cop now when the world needs him the most? TBH.
Inferno Cop, the last airbender.
Yeah. So I think we're all pretty moderate fans of Imaishi. What do you guys really appreciate about his directing style or his, his aesthetic?
For me, I think what really drives me to his works is the fact that there's almost two. This is gonna sound really dumb, right? It's an onion or an ogre. There's layers to it. But there really is, because when you just watch the surface level stuff of his works on Gurren Lagann or Kill la Kill, you just watch it and you're like, wow, this is like a really dumb anime with a really dumb premise, right? Like one of them is just like robots just being thrown into other robots and then transforming and getting bigger and then drilling, piercing the heavens. And then the other one, literally the main theme that gets shouted at the climax that is supposed to sum up the entire series is people are people and clothes are clothes, and people are not clothes and clothes are not people. So
something we always need a reminder of.
Right? But and it's like so dumb, and you think about it, it's like, well, that's really stupid, but because he like fully commits to how over the top and crazy it is, the heartfelt moments and the passion and just how fleshed out these characters are in such a ridiculous world just brings out the emotions and the love he has, not just for the medium, but for storytelling in general. Like with Gurren Lagann, yes, it's about giant robots fighting monsters and drilling and like, you know, fan service and all this in between, but it's also about like bonds between friends and like wanting to be better and like trying to progress society and what it means to like to push forward into the future and not look back. And Kill la Kill has all this stuff about your identity and your sexual identity and how you perceive your own appearance and your image and the people you choose to be your family. So
yeah, I agree with all that. I think I'd put it, Imaishi is one of the most auteuristic directors in the least conventionally auteuristic way possible. He has that unique voice and that unique style, but it's so bombastic and crazy and over the top that, yeah, if you just skim the top surface, you can really lose a lot of the nuance there. Because it is surprisingly there. There's a lot of intention in how he crafts a world and a story along with his other various collaborators who are phenomenal in their own rights. It's kind of singular. His works are pretty singular.
Yeah, I think you guys bring up a lot of great points that I agree with completely. Something that really sticks out to me is how I think it's really tough to do something that's really over the top, but have it stay meaningful. Because if you think about it, there is a lot of like over the top kind of like works in anime and manga. Like a lot of people try to pull that off, but sometimes I think they miss the boat a lot and they don't really give a lot of meaning to it. So people just kind of experience it and it goes in like one ear out the other. But Imaishi does a great job of doing something over the top and giving that meaning. And I think you guys captured that really well. Kev, Naz, did you have any thoughts on that?
I feel like you kind of undersell his work here a bit, because creating a lot of drive, insane pace, and this whole intensity that his works are famous for is like a huge talent. Because there aren't like pretty much any other directors active out there who can match Imaishi in this passion, in this like hype and drive creation. And it's not even like this layered themes or topics of what he is trying to say. For me, at least, it's not like the main reason why I'm watching his works. It's because of this like insane intensity and this drive that he creates constantly, which sucks you in and wants you to watch more and more and more. Because in Gurren Lagann and Kill la Kill and Promare, it's this constant tension and constant build-up that keeps on going and going and going and going and going, and it keeps on delivering, and that's what really like sucks me in, and that's why I'm watching his works.
Yeah, I don't think Tay or I were trying to downplay that side of it. I think we were just talking about how the combination of both was so impressive to us. But you make a really good point to what the the craft behind his craziness, his drive, his hype is, because that is important.
Yeah,
I
definitely.
was gonna say pretty much what everybody else said. It's basically like when I go into one of his things, I know that I'm gonna get like a huge shot of adrenaline out of it, but also like it's presented in such a way where you can like tell that nothing is really done without like a whole bunch of just like focus and intention behind everything that he wants to like show and everything that he wants to push in his works. And like Promare was like, I guess like the apex of that for me.
One of the things that I think really drives me to his works, and I've been saying that again because I think drive is the analogy I really want to use, because like you can't really passively watch his works. Like there's just something like it really brings out passion in you just because you see like the unbridled joy that he has in doing everything, because all of his works like have the same message, and it's true of all his works in Trigger too. Like even the ones like Little Witch Academia, like, you know, a believing heart is our magic, or like believe in there's always this thing about belief and like believing in yourself and like going forward. And there's just something about that lack of cynicism and just like, yeah, like just go out there and just like trust in people and love people. And like, sure, the world is going to say like, no, you can't save everyone, or you can't do this. And maybe that's the logical way, but we're going to like, sure, that's logical. Fuck logic. Let's do it our way, and whatever
kick reason
happens.
to the curb.
Yes, and we're going to accomplish it. And I you know, like you can just tell he's having such a blast with it. And one of the things that really I feel like describes him to a T is at a panel he was talking about his process with Inferno Cop. And he was saying they just wanted to make something that was fun and that they could have a blast with, and they could just like throw all their like bad ideas at the wall. And so whenever they came up with a episode idea, they would have a meeting, and the meeting could not take longer than 15 minutes. They would just throw everything out. They would take their action figures and like try to like coordinate how the fight or whatever the thing would look like. And then they're at the end of 15 minutes, they're like, okay, that's the episode. And they would not revise the script. They would just go with it.
And that's just so much fun to think about. I think it's kind of tough to articulate what fun is, but I feel like they really do present something that feels fun to me. And, you know, like, fun is subjective to each person, but you can really tell that they're having a lot of fun with whatever they do, and I think it's really contagious.
Definitely.
I think Tay really hit the nail on the head there with, you know, fuck logic, fuck the cynicism, we're gonna save everyone, or do what we dream to do without anything holding us back. And that really, even though some of the details and some of the specific topics that Promare covers are different than what Imaishi has done before, there's still definitely that mentality. And I think that's a huge driving force from Gallo as one of the two protagonists. And it's a really driving force of change for Leo, the other protagonist.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So
what's the one Kill la Kill quote? I think it's nonsense. That's how we roll.
Yeah.
It's pretty much just like...
It really does. It really, and you know, it's not just Imaishi. It's like top to bottom, the entire staff. Like Shigeto Koyama. Oh, like I love Shigeto Koyama. He's the mechanical director. He's the guy who does all the mech designs and a lot of the character designs, and he's done all the mech designs since like Gurren Lagann. He did a bunch of the designs for Kill la Kill, and then of course Promare. And he also did Darling in the Franxx. And like when he was talking, and like Darling in the Franxx was an Imaishi. But when he was talking about it, he was like, yeah, I just wanted to like do something that was like really cool and like push the limits of like what we could actually do. And I expected some pushback, but the director of Darling in France was Imaishi, like didn't push back. And he's like, so I just kept going with how ridiculous I could make this. So like when everyone on the team has that kind of striving spirit and like just push the limits for what we can do, like that's obviously going to get reflected throughout the entire process.
Yeah, definitely. It's so cool to see, like, they all have so much fun with it. They really made, like, a culture of fun and, you know, kicking reason to the curb to create some fun stuff. Yeah, so, I mean, we all, I think, up until Promare had been released, we had all seen at least one or two Imaishi works. So we had, like, I think everyone as a collective in the anime community had expectations on Promare. And I think the, like, most basic level was kind of like, oh, yeah, so this is just going to be Gurren Lagann again because the main character kind of looks like Kamina. And I remember that, like, people had said that to the Trigger team, and I think at some panel they said, well, he's clearly not Kamina because Kamina's hair goes this way and Gallo's hair goes the other way.
Yeah,
so
it was at,
very
that was at the Anime NYC panel.
Yeah.
So are you sure you weren't there?
No, you told me this.
Oh.
Quoting a friend who happens to be on this podcast who could say it himself, but I'll just quote him.
Okay.
Yeah, so they're just like, yeah, his hair goes the other way, so they're clearly different characters.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting you bring up that topic because I forget who it was, but I remember reading this or hearing this. Someone was talking about how, and this was just I think a fan analyzing the movie, how Gallo does look a lot like Kamina, but the two without spoiling one of those, the two properties handle that character very differently, and it's interesting to see the ramifications of having Gallo,
The way he is.
Yeah.
the way he is and the way the story handles him. I'm being very careful here.
Yeah.
I think you guys are catching on to what I mean and how that affected the story as opposed to what happens with Gurren Lagann.
I think one of them is shown to be much more independent and like, hey, like everything has to be on me, and the other one is like, well, I've got my team behind me. And I think, that is the biggest difference, and I think we see how that plays out between the two of them. But also, like, man, the expectations, I just want to say on a personal note, I was really blown away when they first showed Leo at AX, because I had been to like the trigger panels before, but I don't like watching trailers for stuff before I see something I really like. But I had seen the promo image for Promare, and I was like, wow, that girl with the pop cut is really cute. I was like, wow, that is the prettiest character Trigger has ever made. I love her. And then I was like, oh, I love him.
I was like, does that opinion still stand after
Yes.
watching the movie?
Yeah,
Better.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, I kind of had a similar. So I didn't really follow Premiere's pre-release a whole lot. At the time, I was kind of down on Trigger a little bit because their two previous shows. Well, you can hardly call Frank's theirs, but it is still.
They don't
pushy
even call
kind of-
Frank's theirs.
No, they don't. They were involved to a degree, but that and sorry, Gridman fans, I was not a fan of Gridman.
All right, I'm out.
So,
I'm the same,
oh,
I'm out.
good. Finally, bye. We got Tay to leave. But so I was kind of down on Trigger. With it being Imaishi, I was hoping this would be definitely a tick back up for Trigger works that I've seen. Went in, I too totally thought. Well, actually, when I saw the promo material and I saw Leo, I didn't think much of him. I was just like, oh, that's a pretty looking girl, or wait a second, that kind of does look like a guy on this poster, and I just couldn't tell, and at the time didn't care. Had no idea the impact that character would have both on the anime community, specifically the queer anime community, and myself as well. So that was definitely not something I was expecting going in. Very happily received.
Yeah, I think I was pretty much like at the point where I had passively seen a lot for Promare, but I had really only seen Gallo. Like, I didn't even know about Leo. I didn't know much. So I was like in that same boat of not really knowing that much. So it is kind of interesting how maybe it's either just us or like Trigger did a good job of kind of like keeping a lot of things under wraps until the big premiere.
Wait, if you put Gallo and Leo together, Galileo, it kind of sounds like Galileo. Is that intentional?
I don't know.
I don't know.
That's a
Who
good
knows
question.
with them?
Yeah.
I might.
I can't believe I just noticed that.
I think both of those are supposed to be like Greek fire puns. I think.
Oh.
I think it was Ralph that was watching it, and he's from Cyprus, so like Mediterranean area. But like, yeah, I think because there's also like Deus Prometh in there too, which is like Prometheus.
Yeah.
So.
So, I'm always hesitant to attribute too much to Imaishi and the team because they had that opening scene in Gurren Lagann that they forgot they put in when they were like 10 episodes in. And later at another panel, like a fan was like, oh, like they brought up their own fan theory about the first scene in the first episode. And they apparently like all looked at each other and they were like, oh, shoot, we forgot. Like, honestly, legit, we forgot we put that scene in. Like, we don't. And they're like, your theory sounds like a good theory. Let's go with it. That's canon now.
That's the best.
So like,
That's the best.
given that they legit forget things they actually apparently intended to do and then forgot they actually made them, it's hard to tell how much is attributable and how much isn't.
Whoopsie.
Whoopsie. But yeah. But yeah, no. Oh
Yeah.
man, the expectations were crazy. It was like, Trigger. I feel like, especially with Imaishi, because he hadn't made anything since Kill la Kill. It had been 5 years, and
Yeah.
before Kill la Kill, it had been like 7 years
Luluco
since
was
Gurren Lagann. Yeah,
2016, right?
yeah,
I
there
guess
was
it's not-
Luluco.
I guess it's not as big as a production.
And it was like half-length episodes,
It was short, but that still takes effort.
That's true. But it never tried to be like super ambitious in the way that like Kill la Kill and Gurren Lagann were, and people were really chomping at the bit for that. And also, while he was doing Lulugo, he had been talking for so long about how the fact that they want to do a movie and that's what they were really working towards, an Imaishi film.
Yeah. And
so it was like, oh, like, man, we just really want that like really driven Imaishi work, like in movie form. And I gotta say, I was on kind of the opposite, Chris, in that I was really nervous of this because so Darling in the Franxx was really bad. At least
hopefully not a hot take to come out and say that like 2 years after.
At the very least, it was not indicative of being associated with Trigger's works.
Yeah.
It was more like a stumbling debut for Cloverworks.
It really was.
Or, well, Cloverworks becoming Cloverworks.
Right.
They'd existed as an internal studio of A1 for so long.
Exactly. But then, that's Sony money, though. But with... Aniplex. But with Promare, I really loved Gridman, and to me, Gridman felt like, fuck you, Darling in the Franxx part 1 of the tour, and this was like, I was like, is this gonna be part 2 of the fuck you, Darling in the Franxx tour? Or, like, because I just really wanted them to continue this tour of them just like, and obviously it wasn't intentional because like these things all came out or were definitely in development way before Darling in the Franxx, but it just felt like, hey, no, like this is what we want to do with Trigger. This is what the Trigger name means. This is like the kind of stuff we want to do. Like, shut up, imposters. This is the way we do it.
I think what's also important is like I know from some of this context from like talking to you about more of that panel where they kind of disavowed Darling in the Franxx, but like part of the context was I think the people working with Trigger at A1, which would become Cloverworks, were really not mecha fans. I remember you telling me that they were not into mecha, but they were still kind of making one. So this kind of felt like what I'm gathering from what you're saying, which I kind of agree with, is like, kind of reassuring their identity, like the Trigger identity, reconfirming like, we're passionate about this. We're passionate about mecha anime. We love, our culture. We love celebrating this, we're not, there's not a lot of mecha anime being made out there, but it's cool to see them like, no, this is us, this is our style, we love this is like, it's kind of nostalgic in a way, but it's like reconfirming their identity,
right? And that's true because the director for Darling in the Franxx, when he was part of Gainax, and then they eventually worked on Idolmaster as a group before splitting off and either staying at A1 Pictures or at Trigger. The guy who stayed behind at Trigger directed both Idolmaster anime, and Shigeto Koyama like made the mecha like really pretty girls because he was like, oh, the director likes girls more than he likes mechas. He's not actually a mecha fan, which is why like the robots in Darling in the Franxx are so sexualized.
He was saying because wasn't the director of Franxx the character designer of Gurren Lagann? He was saying the character designer of Gurren Lagann is not a mecha fan. That sounds like kind of a miss.
Sorry, what? The director of
Gurren Lagann.
Darling in the
Franxx. Director of Franxx is the
character designer of... Was the character designer of Gurren Lagann, if I'm remembering correctly.
Right.
So,
but apparently, like, he just really liked idols more. He just really liked cute girls more than he liked mechas.
Strange.
It is.
That's strange. The character designer of one of the most currently iconic, at least, mecha anime doesn't like mecha that much, or I guess it might be more relative. Doesn't like him as much as
also, I'm pretty sure it was Shigeto Koyama who did the mechas so it was different between character designs and mechanical designs. That's why I was like so confused. I was like, why are you? So yeah. So like character designs and mech designs that are done by two different people.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
So either way, it kind of felt like a departure, but this is kind of like reestablishing their identity. And
it felt like the difference between like Darling in the Franxx felt like ripping off mecha anime, and like I don't know what's behind this, but I'm just like doing cut for cut stuff from like Evangelion, whereas Promare felt like we were inspired by mecha anime. We know what the passion behind it is like.
Yeah. So I guess without further ado, we can just jump right in and actually talk about Promare. Realize it's actually like, oh yeah, we've gone in the background. This is what led up to it. So then people actually got to see Promare, and we have thoughts, unsurprising to everyone here. So who wants to go first?
Shaw, how about you
I
go
will go
first?
first.
Because
Yeah, you
you
go
actually got
No, stop.
You
It's
know,
too soon for that.
it is, but there are some
No.
internal connections between you and Trigger, so I want your
Makes me
incredibly
sound like
biased.
that makes it sound like I
Brilliant.
work for Trigger. That would be amazing, but I do not work for Trigger. Okay, here's the quick rundown. So me and Fate were lucky enough to go see Promare at AX. I'm sorry, everyone who is like our friends, like including you guys, are probably tired of this story, but like this is the buildup of like, you know, we're at Anime Expo. This is like probably the biggest event at Anime Expo. Like many thousands of people wanted to see this, and I think only like 5,000 got to. We fought to go see this, and we're in a like theater with 5,000 weebs, and they start playing Promare, and it's kind of like the peak anime watching experience because you're with so many weebs that are so excited that it's kind of just like constant cheering at every cool thing. Like anything that could happen, like any explosion, any fight, just people like oohing and awing, sometimes to a ridiculous degree, but it made the experience a lot of fun. And so I know me and Fate both had a really great time, and his best friend who lives in LA was watching with us. He was getting annoyed at someone just cheering ridiculously in front of us. Shout out to Emp and to EMP. And then afterwards, we had the Trigger panel, so we got to hear them talk about the film and, you know, kind of dissect it afterwards.
While
and
an earthquake was going on.
Yeah, that happened. The second earthquake in 2 days. That was funny. So they also shot out Trigger dollars, which is something they do at every Trigger panel, is they like have like those legit dollar, what are they called? Like dollar guns?
I don't know, but it had a Supreme logo on it. So that was pretty cool.
It was like a Supreme money shooter, and they shot out
Shigeta Koyama like strolling out, like literally strolling with a swag walk with like sunglasses and like slick back, gelled up hair and spiked hair, and he's like double fisting these two like dollar guns and just like shooting Trigger dollars into the crowd like a rock star.
Yeah, and so like everyone's like fighting like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory style to get these Trigger dollars. So they're all like trying to get them, and I think like everyone around me got like at least 2 or 3, and I got like one under a chair. Then at the end of the panel, they said that anyone who got a Trigger dollar that had a special stamp on it should come up because they won something. And sure enough, mine actually had a stamp on it, and I didn't even realize until like Fate was like, "Yo, yours has a stamp. Like you need to go up there." So I got to go up, and I was super fortunate enough to win a Shikishi of Leo. I think I've sent you guys a picture of it, but we can include it in the podcast if people want to see it. It's really cool. It's like my prized possession, kind of like top 5 days of my life, most amazing thing ever. So that was really ridiculous and fun. And then afterwards, what's really cool is we got to stand next to Imaishi, and Fate spoke to him. Because Fate low-key speaks Japanese. He won't admit it, but I do for him. So, Fate spoke to Imaishi, and I believe you said, we've, like, really enjoyed this. Thank you so much. Do you remember? You might have said something else.
Yeah, no, I was like, thank you so much for your works. Like, we really love them. Thank you for coming to the US. We've been big fans for a long time. And, yeah, it was crazy. Like, he was, like, really shy, it seemed like, but he was, like, you know, he was really nice about it. He's like, oh, thank you so much for coming and for, you know, for being fans. Yeah. Good
So
people.
Fate spoke to Imaishi. He will underplay it, but that's what I'm here for. Because you got to speak to him.
Dare to speak to the god.
Yo, I was so nervous. I was like, yo, legit,
That's
like
really
Imaishi,
cool.
the god. Oh my god. Especially like, because, you know, while this is all going on, you know, we also watched Promare, and that experience in the theater was just so freaking crazy. Because everyone there was just like, because if you go to AX and you watch something, like, obviously, and, like, especially for Imaishi, and, if, like, even if you weren't a Premiere fan, or even if you were a Premiere fan, you had to get there, like, way early just because so many people wanted to go. So, like, you would only go there if you were a huge fucking Imaishi stan.
Yeah.
So, like, everyone got all the references that were in there, all the in-universe jokes, and it was so much fun. So great.
Great experience.
And yeah, and then
like
we were really obnoxious about it, and then wouldn't shut up about telling everyone else. So, like, for people who, you know, were unfortunate enough to have to hear me and Shaw talk about this for months before you were able to see it.
This is our apology. This is our apology. We're
What
still
did you
doing the
guys-
thing, but we apologize.
what did you guys think about Promare? Because before it came out, before AX, people were like a little tentative, and then after AX, people would literally not shut up. Like you could not shut up to get people. Like could not pay people to shut up about Promare. So like, given those expectations, when you guys finally did watch Promare, what was that experience like for you?
So, again, I didn't really follow the pre-release a lot, and I guess I just kind of dodged a lot of that. I try to go into things without much preamble anyway, but it was fun. It was a ton of fun. I mean, it's one of my favorite anime of all time now. You can go on my anime list and see it in my top 5. Definitely a huge impact, and a big part of what helped, or at least what made that first viewing fun, was I wasn't in a theater with thousands of weebs, but the smaller theater at the AMC in Chicago was still pretty damn packed, and everyone was going nuts, especially as the movie went along.
That's awesome.
It started with some cheering, and then it got more and more, and by the time they got to the professor and they made the Deus Ex Machina joke, everything went crazy ballistic for the final fight. Everyone was in a complete meltdown of hype. So that was an exhilarating experience. Shout out, by the way, to Adi and Aries. They were with me at that screening there. That was a
nice.
fun time. I just remember watching it. It was funny because the first viewing was obviously way different than the second one because I knew what to look for with the second one. The first one was, holy shit, after the opening credits and it got to that first big action sequence, I was kind of nervous about the 3D because a couple days before I saw it, I heard there was 3D, and I heard Sanzigen did it. And I'm not a huge fan of Sanzigen because of certain mindsets they have towards 3D and anime. So I was like, oh boy, I hope this doesn't hold the film back. Well, it didn't. Apparently someone set them straight on low frame rate usage of 3D in anime. It has its purpose. Don't use it for everything, Sanzigen. But yeah, that first action scene started, and I just went, holy crap, this is gorgeous. The use of color, the effects animation, the 3D firefighter mechs, and the character animation along with it was just extraordinary. And the moment Leo comes out and Kakusei plays for the first time is still such an iconic moment. You can't talk about Promare without talking about Sawano and the absolute masterpiece of a soundtrack he made for this movie. Sawano is, as you guys know, super popular. There are some detractors that say, oh, he's just all hype, he's just all drops, but he went way above and beyond with the soundtrack on Promare, especially with the vocal tracks. Those were awesome. Well, him and Superfly, who contributed Kakusei in the ending theme. Yeah. But yeah, and then as the movie went on, you start noticing the more social themes. Some of the more social themes, definitely about discrimination. It doesn't, I noticed even on the second watch through, it doesn't always hone in on a specific type of discrimination. There's the whole pizza shop scene, which is kind of reminiscent of, it's not a realistic depiction, but it's reminiscent of attitudes towards especially Muslim people right now, given a lot of the terrorist groups. And then a lot more of the film kind of digs into kind of mentalities of the queer LGBT plus community and how they feel about their, how we feel about our, oppression, prejudice, and how we want to express ourselves. That was definitely a little easier to notice too on a repeat viewing too. I was not expecting, so I'm watching this and I'm seeing all these social themes that I really like, and I'm like, they're just going to keep it at this. They're not going to do anything crazy. Leo seems a little, queer-esque, but they're probably not going to do anything. And then they did the kiss. And my heart just, froze, and I'm just like, wait, what? Wait, did they actually... No, they're going to do some stupid reaction afterwards that's a little homophobic. It's, don't get your hopes up, And they did the reaction, but it wasn't like...
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
It wasn't like homophobic... hold on, I'm going to pause for a second. My mic is falling.
Oh no!
I was wondering what that was.
Yeah.
You can. Yeah. It started making noise. I'm like, okay, hold on. We gotta pause for a second. And oh no, it's falling. Okay, just edit this part out. Give me 2 seconds. Oh, you stupid thing.
Yeah, you tell that Maiku's boss.
Yeah.
It's the stand. I have it on my windowsill, which is a little thin, but
So
normal.
This is
Are you
interesting.
Normally, that's held it in.
Are you saying it's the work of an enemy stand?
Oh my god.
Okay.
Okay, just edit that part out. Where was I? The kiss. So the kiss, my heart froze. It was the reaction. I was talking about the reaction.
Yeah.
So they did the reaction, but it wasn't quite what I was expecting. It wasn't like the homophobic or slightly homophobic, ew, why'd you kiss, or how, it's not a kiss, or why'd you kiss me, and that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Gallo almost reacted like he was embarrassed he had to show that affection, but that affection was real. I think the exact quote was, "You made me light a fire."
Yeah, it was like for the first time in my life, I
For the first-
had to light a fire because of you.
Yeah.
Which can be interpreted in a couple of ways, but
Ooh.
I definitely took that in the romantic way. And, well, I mean, and Trigger's behavior with a lot of the post, debut marketing and the image of, what was it? The image of Gallo and
The
Leo
wedding.
in tuxedos at their wedding was that was awesome. And so that was just, it's not the moment necessarily that made the film amazing, because the whole film's amazing, but it definitely had an impact clearly on people like me in the LGBT plus community to see that kind of representation done well.
And I think what's kind of interesting to see is a lot of people, I've seen takes that were like, both like, it's too gay or it's not gay enough, kind of like, unfortunately, kind of like questioning it in various ways, like various degrees of respectful takes on that. But I think some people who think that like it's not intentional, they just did it, and then it's a bunch of people who are like blowing it out of proportion. I will say the first thing that was brought up in the Trigger panel afterwards was, so how about that CPR scene? It's the first thing the directors and everyone asked us, and everyone cheered. So, if you think it's like not intentional, it was 100% intentional on their part. And a lot
They
of
weren't even concerned about the reaction to it, because they were like, a lot of you were laughing at it. Was it like funny? Was it like not good? And we were like, no, we loved it. Because they were like, in Japan, like people were
there was
like,
not that much
clapping.
of a reaction.
No, they were like clapping, but no one was laughing. But like in AX, I guess people were just like laughing out of like sheer shock, I guess.
I think it was like it was a mixture of like
really
laughter
similar.
and cheers.
Oh,
like everyone
yeah.
was cheering and laughing, but like going crazy. Like it was the biggest cheer of the film.
Mm-hmm. It was like
I think it was kind of like what I was going in there, like when it was happening, the kiss was happening. I think the laughter came from, they're going to do this stupid joke. They're going to do this stupid joke. It's funny. It's fun. Well, some people think it's funny. I know. So I think that's where some of the laughter, or the nervous laughter, came from, and then they came out with that reaction. I know I definitely laughed and cheered because it was a surprise, and it was also funny in a good way.
It was great. Huge fan of it. I mean, like, also if you just watch like any of Imaishi's other works, or any of like Gainax or Trigger's like other works, like like how much of focus they put on like LGBT works. Like from Kill la Kill, Gurren Lagann, like Little Witch Academia, just Die Buster. If you want to go back to like Imaishi, I don't think he wasn't the director of Die Buster, but he was very much involved with that as well.
Someone else.
But like, you just go through those works, and it's like, maybe once is a coincidence, right? Like maybe twice is like unintentional, but like consistently throughout, bringing up like LGBT themes and like stories of inclusion, like that it's going to be intentional. That's just them wanting to spread and promote that message of inclusivity and love, and it's awesome. I'm here for it.
Yeah, Imaishi's been fairly progressive throughout his career. He's not on like Ikuhara level, but
who is
no
on
one
Ikuhara?
is, no one's on Ikuhara level.
No one's on Ikuhara level. But he's still been pretty socially progressive. So, and then to the people who are like, that wasn't on purpose, there's no way that means that. I mean, you have a film that's focusing on societal oppression and prejudice with clear parallels to the LGBT community, and you have a gay kiss. Yeah, total accident. No way. That's just not. They didn't need to do that, right, guys?
Yeah.
So
Also, it's just like kind of sprinkled throughout the whole thing. Like when you rewatch it, that first fight comes off as like them basically trying to out-fabulous each other in like the biggest way possible.
Yeah, you were
Like
mentioning
when,
it.
like when Leo grabs the sword out of the fire and just spins it around like 90 times around his neck and stuff, and it's like, you didn't have to do that.
It was so extra, but I was here for it.
Yes.
I like you brought up a lot of great themes on like social commentary and like social oppression. I think the other aspect is that it brings up a lot of interesting points on, you know, the why can I not think of the
Environmentalism.
Yeah, environmentalism. I was gonna think
Yes.
the environment. So I think we've seen like a lot of different takes on the environment in various anime, especially anime films, like especially a lot of
have
Ghibli
we?
films.
Have I seen
Oh,
one with you? With
Called Ghibli.
Oh, are you talking about Weathering with You now as well?
whether
I
we
honestly
are or
didn't
not talking about it with you.
Oh my god.
Talking about it with you, but I was talking to Nas about it a lot, and he had like really cool takes on this special type of environmentalist commentary it had.
Nas, if you would like to
sorry.
share with the group and not
Yeah,
just
yeah.
Shaw.
Did you guys know what Nas had to say? Well, about to drop some facts on you.
But yeah, the way that I took it, because like they make a big point of how like the Promare will sync with like the human's will. So like the way that came across is that it's kind of like a way to tie the like emotional state of human beings to like the actual state of the planet. Like at the climax when everything is at its worst and like all the burnish are being used in the Prometech pod or whatever. And that's when like all the flares start coming up and it's like, okay, this is where the world ends. But then like this ties to another thing I wanted to talk about, where I think at the like core of all of Imaishi's stuff that there's a very like pro mental health message too. Like in Gurren Lagann, it's believing yourself, and Kill la Kill, it's being comfortable in the clothes you wear. It took me a bit longer to like realize what it was for Promare, but I think I like came to the conclusion that it's like talking, like finding ways to like properly release your stress. Like if you see like Cray, he's like at the end of it all, he's like the most powerful burnish because he's been like keeping everything in for like the pretty much since the first time that he flared like 20 years ago. And it's like, I think I said this to Sha before, but it's like the flames of like hatred are kind of like what are threatening to destroy everything. But it's like at the end when Leo and Gallo get into, is it Leo de Gallon or Gallo de Leon? I think it's Gallo de Leon.
It's
Keep
both.
changing.
Yeah,
It's
but when they
both
get
at
into
some
that,
time.
it's like it's basically like flames of hatred destroy the world, flames of love are like what cleanse it, save everything.
Look,
So just like having like a prop, and like you can see that throughout the film too, when like Gallo, he has like his own method of getting rid of his stress when he goes to the ice lake,
Yeah.
things like that. And like at the start of the film, it's the people who are the most like stressed out in these situations that become the first burnish. So that's like what it came across as to me. So yeah.
Yeah, I really like that too. I like that aspect of like the mental health aspect, because we do kind of overlook the beginning a bit because it's so interesting, but it doesn't entirely fit with the rest of the film in the sense that like it's just our introduction to what the burnish are. But I think that's a really great point because they do show that like there's so many different types of stress in their world that can relate to our world with like not really being able to handle modern day society and finding a healthy
Outlet.
yeah, exactly, a healthy outlet for it.
So bringing it back to the environmentalist point,
Yeah.
just like having that outlet is like what kind of saves the planet, I guess. It's having ways to actually properly channel your stress and hatred or whatever, anger. So
Yeah.
Interesting. I had a different
That's awesome.
interpretation of the final scene, I guess. But
Ooh.
it's like it ties to my entire interpretation of the movie itself.
Oh, go for it. What do you think?
I mean, it's pretty long-winded explanation, but yeah, my main
I'm here for it.
my main focus, like how I viewed the movie, was through once again environmental commentary, and I believe it's probably one of the most interesting and intriguing commentaries on environmental issues in anime, because I like haven't seen it's a topic that like I believe rarely being touched upon in anime overall, and it's the one that of critical importance nowadays. And I believe the whole anime is essentially about existence of humanity and nature, the man and the planet, where Leo is not only an embodiment of rage, but also of all primal instincts that live in a human being. That's why he constantly burns throughout the series. And these instincts make him kind of an animal, and he doesn't know what to do with his emotions. And so in order to get to his goal in the middle of the movie, he, out of his rage, wipes out innocent civilians, betraying his motto of killing only those who is necessary to kill, and so on and so forth. And only when he tames his fire and manages to protect Gal against Gray, he learns how to deal with these instincts and save the planet. So instead of using this energy to fight, he uses it to protect his homeworld. And these very instincts, which were given us by Earth itself, our planet, which fuel us all, and these emotions should be aimed at the betterment of our society and our coexistence with the planet overall. And on the other hand, we have Gray, our antagonist, who condemned the fire, condemned these emotions, and decided to use it as a fuel to leave the planet. It's another approach, more scientific, more calculated, devoid of these emotions. His idea was to utilize everything and to reach this goal, and no matter the cost, no matter the casualties, disregarding the damage that the environment could bear. And if you've noticed, probably have, all weapons that he strikes with are terraforming tools, so he's willing to bend the nature itself to the man. And he's not learning from his mistakes. And while destroying one planet, he takes these tools to another planet. So one could only guess what would happen there, basically. So it's kind of easy to see parallels with the reality we live in. Gray is not just a normal, simplistic villain. He is the despair and, resignation that people see and feel when they say they can't save the planet right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's a great point. And I think that you're really spot on, especially when they highlight in the fight, they highlight in the fight with Gallo and Leo versus Cray, when they're seeing all of the mechs he would use to, terraform the new planet he wants to go to, when they point out how he has so much technology that he could almost fix the planet on his own, but he doubts the capabilities of them. He's like, no, we couldn't do it. He's so quick to shut down the possibility of saving the planet they're on, and instead is just so focused on going to a new one and kind of doing the same shit all over again. But it's why is he not putting all of his energy towards trying to save the planet, especially when we learn later on that, if he just teamed up with the Burnish, they could have easily saved the planet, but instead he tries to other them and blame them for everything and extort them for their powers instead of working with them.
Also, just not being able to accept his own identity, just othering the people that he's a part of as well.
He's avoiding
that's self-hatred,
essentially, and I feel like it's just very easy to once again draw parallels between this and the modern world, and it's once again really depressing if you think about it.
But also hopeful if you think about it too, because it's talking about the fact that there are, just like there are bad eggs in every group, there are bad eggs in, there are bad eggs in every group, but, there are people who are good who want to take what is unique about them and make things better, and, you don't have to be so, have such a defeatist attitude about who you are. So.
Yeah, it does, it ties back into the queer theory of it with, they say a lot, I think it comes from a specific study, but they say a lot of the most homophobic people are actually closeted gays themselves. That very much can be drawn as a parallel to Cray.
Yep. Yep. And there is lots of symbolism and references in Promare as well. Fire or flame is the recurrent symbol in the movie, and I believe its uses are not limited by being just representation of rage, emotions, or instincts. Promare, the scientist who was first to research Burnish, is obvious reference to Prometheus, well, you all probably know him, the Greek mythology figure who stole the fire from gods to give it to humans. After that, he was punished by Zeus, and humanity as a whole struggled afterwards. In Promare, Prometheus defined nature while trying to give whole control by creating fireproof suits and freezing agents of it to humanity. So, again, parallels are clear, and this fire, which people try to control, it's really hard to control, essentially, and that's what Mud Burnish are all about. Like, it's the most powerful weapon, the weapon of emotions, but it's so hard to wield and like use to an effective way. And the ending is quite interesting as well, as I mentioned. Initially, I thought it would make more sense for the characters to kind of tame the fire, coexist with it, but instead the whole planet is covered with a different kind of flame, the purifying one. Promare says that the solution is to clean up our thoughts, set aside all disputes, all arguments, and start anew. Start anew while thinking about what is the most important for humanity, being reborn. So essentially, again, the purifying flame, which consumes the planet, it kind of redefines it from the ground. And I feel like it's really important and strong message for everyone, and like to set everything aside and try to communicate with each other, try to see what we can do together to start anew and start from scratch and help out each other and like just to live on this planet.
That's interesting. I took it a little differently, but I guess it's kind of tangential or related to yours. I took that cleansing fire, the ending to be not necessarily just like a cleansing of our emotions or a cleansing of society, but an acceptance of everything that humanity has to offer and all the different facets, all the different people within it from various backgrounds, everything. And that acceptance is what paves the way to redemption.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, after all, everyone kind of saw eye to each other, as well as even Cray, who admitted his defeat, which is a huge win for everyone.
Yeah.
And I think, acceptance, it could be seen here as well, where everyone kind of, once again, tries their best to see each other's points and try to improve society and their own beliefs towards each other.
Let it burn.
Hey.
Just let it burn.
Yeah.
It is a
One thing I do want to talk about, though, since we are talking about metaphors and we are the R Anime podcast, is the metaphor that they use with the shapes, specifically the squares and the triangles. Yeah. And I thought that was like really cool how they were like, at the very beginning, I actually was like really nervous because you mentioned that they worked with Sans again on the 3D aspect stuff, and Trigger, consistently you look at Gurren Lagann now and you're like, holy crap, like anime like today doesn't even look as good as Gurren Lagann did in 2007 sometimes. And I was like, oh man, like what's with all like the square lens flare, like what's going on with this, like why does everything look so squares? And then you're like, oh, why are the triangles, or why are the fires triangular? That's so weird. But to hear Imaishi talk about it, he talks about that the Burnish are triangles because he's like, oh, like a triangle is kind of like freedom and motion. And if you think about it, since he, in Gurren Lagann talked about how a drill to him imagines that is like piercing towards the future and is like going towards there. If you think of it in that way, like a cone is just like a 3D triangle.
Okay.
And then he's talking about how like a square like is related to it's like it walls you off. It's like a box, but even then, when you cut off a part of a square, it becomes a triangle. So then he was talking about like how they're like these two different things, but they're really similar. But he talks about how Professor Do's his lab has a circular base design, And he's like, oh, like at the end, the lens flare becomes circular again because we shouldn't be like othering each other. We should be like together in a circle. And that's why like the pizza scene is so important too, because the pizza comes in a square in a pizza box and it's split into triangles, but the pizza itself is a circle.
Wow.
So you're telling me pizza was the answer for acceptance all along?
Wow.
Was pizza, yes.
Yeah.
Holy shit, guys. Just eat pizza. This is
Just
it.
eat pizza.
So Promare is
Yeah.
essentially about pizza. I see.
I mean, as
It's
it should
essentially-
be.
As it should be.
They also
Society is just a pizza.
it's also funny that pizza is so prominent in this film because they said they based a lot of Promopolis on both New York City and Chicago. And one of those cities is well known for its pizza and for having amazing pizza, and the other one is Chicago. So
Those are fighting words.
I know.
Oh, don't
I
dare.
have thoughts
Hey,
on that too, but that's probably for another day.
Yeah.
Meanwhile,
I
over here in Detroit, we're
I
having
can
square
sing.
pizza.
I can sing the praises of deep dish pizza and its glory from Chicago without having to put down New York pizza because it is good too.
Yeah, but y'all are nice out there. We're not. You guys,
Y'all,
Yeah.
y'all are
don't
people.
have- y'all don't have
y'all
enough
are
to stand on.
circles. We're not.
You're too insecure. You have to put someone down to raise your own pizza up.
No.
So we win.
No. It's all because we already know we're this, so it's like, why do we even have to talk? It's so self-explanatory. Just how it's
Okay, Cray.
just how it's self-explanatory. That like, with his other works with Imaishi on Gurren Lagann and Kill la Kill and now Promare, there's just like, I said before, it's so hard to tell what's intentional and what's not. It's because like, who the fuck would think like, oh, you think like, oh, the naming stuff and all that is like much more intentional, and he like plays, he pokes fun at it. Watching Parasite by later like reminded me of Promare because in Parasite there's a scene where very early on they get like this very like supposedly like really important scholar stone that's supposed to mean a lot of things, and then when the characters
So metaphorical.
yeah, he looks at it, he's like, it's so metaphorical. And then I was thinking of Promare in that moment, not just because I think of Promare in every moment, but because when they're like leaving, they're like, oh, this machine is called Deus Ex Machina. And they're like, oh, so how did you like select us to like save the world? He's like, oh, I didn't. Like, if you had not fallen through the ice, we would have all died.
You have to decide.
So I was just like, oh, he's like poking fun at like people who like go and like are cinema sins and like break everything down, or like, oh, like this interpretation. And he's like, fuck you guys, just like let this movie happen. It's a ton of fun, but also like while doing that, also having so much meaning behind it.
It's an interesting flex to be able to say, I'm really just out here doing what I want, but there is that meaning behind it that you guys are like looking into, but it's not here. It's like over here. Like,
Yeah.
it's not this, it's this thing over here. But yeah, I'm just doing what I want.
Yeah.
You're close, guys. Just turn your head a little bit to the right. There it is. You found it. That's
you
where
go.
it's at.
Oh man.
I think if something I've noticed about this film, it's that it has like an interesting range of responses that like people have had after watching it, but people also have so many different interpretations of it. Even just like on this podcast, we've all had different interpretations of it, even if we're all like kind of in the same ballpark. So I think it's really interesting just to see how a film that I think some people have said has like little to no meaning, it's all surface level fun, has elicited so many different thematic interpretations of it. So I think that's pretty cool.
So metaphorical.
I don't know. I just like triangles, man. That's it.
I'm just here for the triangles and the
Yo,
pizza.
This is why, like, it's in my top 4 anime, along with Eurocamp Triangle, Macross Triangle,
Oh my God.
Bermuda
Triangle.
Triangle, and now Promare Triangle.
Yeah.
If only it had triangle in the title.
I know.
I think what he was really trying to say the whole time is that Freeze Force were a bunch of squares.
Oh, nice.
Massive
Sick.
burn.
Sick
Wait.
ice burn there.
Oh, yeah, that was pretty cool. Way to,
Oh, God.
yeah. But not
But
to put a
it's-
chill on this conversation.
Oh my god.
I wanted to react. It's interesting, Sha, you mentioned the people on Twitter. I think it was like the second wave of US Promare theatrical showings where there were a bunch of people who were like super hyped to see it, and they saw it and they're like, yeah, this doesn't really have a lot of meaning. It's kind of just like, what did this even mean? And I'm just like, How did you
miss it?
Yeah.
Promare is a lot of things, but one of those things is not subtle. It is not subtle.
Yeah.
It's pretty straightforward, and even on a first viewing, I hope most people could at least pick up on some of the themes and stuff, even if you didn't get all the details at first, because it is admittedly a lot easier to notice certain aspects on a second viewing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But yeah, how did you not notice anything?
I
I
think
mean,
it's
there are
also,
people who think like Gurren Lagann is just like dumb humor and think Kill la Kill is just fan service. So
See, but those things are dumb humor and fan service,
I know.
but they're not just dumb humor and fan service.
that's true. That's true.
yeah. Do you think maybe I'll give it time where it's like it's this, but it's also this, or do you think
Things
it's
can
just
be more than one thing at once. It's amazing how that
what?
works.
What are you
Yeah.
saying? Well, no way. Absolutely.
I'm
You
saying
could
Promare is dumb fun and it's meaningful.
Or meme-ful.
ooh, there
Just
it
you,
is.
Tay.
I don't-
What do you guys think to some of the criticisms that are like? Because I can understand some, even though I don't agree with them. Some of the criticisms along the lines of like the characters are pretty shallow, or they don't leave a strong impression. Like those criticisms that I don't agree with, but
I got two major
Mhm.
complaints overall. But yeah, first of all, is related to characters, but mostly to the supporting cast, which is pretty much non-existent.
Yeah.
And yeah, they just kind of here on the background doing like wacky stuff, but that's it. You really do not remember who they are. You really do not remember what they do, what's their role in the movie, and that's it. The only like notable
I think
thing about them is that there is once again Mayumi Shintani voicing like
Yeah,
a weird
voicing
girl.
another Imaishi thing.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep.
yeah, I was gonna say like it's just like hitting like supporting cast checkboxes for Imaishi, where you have like quirky girl voiced by Mayumi Shintani, and then you have like huge dude who kind of looks like Kamagori, nerdy dude. It's like stuff like
Yeah.
that.
I also really liked how they brought back Ami Kushimizu after her role as Ryuko in Kill la
Yeah.
Kill.
Mhm.
She was Harris. But yeah, I was like really psyched because I was like, oh man, like I love all the girls that Imaishi has brought out and all the characters he's done because one, they're pretty, and also two, they're badass. And I was like really hyped for Aina, one especially since I found out she was voiced by Ayane Sakura, and I was like, oh, they like totally pushed it aside. But also like on a rewatch, Gallo like legit just dropping her in the middle of what's supposed to be like a romantic ice skating scene for Leo was like
Yep.
He drops her because he sees Leo, and it's just like
It is pretty funny.
Fuck that narrative right here, right now.
fuck your heteronormative bullshit. Like my husband's over there.
Hubby's
like,
coming. It's time to go.
Yeah.
so like on the first time I was like disappointed, but on the second time it was like absolutely fucking hilarious.
Yep. It's pretty good.
Yeah, the first time it's just like, oh, they're just doing a riff on it. And the second time you're like, oh, they're doing a riff on it because he's gay.
But I will say
Yeah.
I kind of keep going because you said you had 2 points.
I'm just saying that once again, supporting cast is just like kind of meh. But at the same time, does this movie even need these characters like being explored
Yeah.
or something like that? I don't think so.
Agreed.
It's like a minor complaint in the end because like the movie feels very much complete, even with like supporting cast just kind of having their own thing on the background.
Yeah.
But yes, my second complaint is kind of a personal one, and I think it just kind of comes with like expectations, somewhat experience. But like it's once again a brilliant and very like in-depth movie in what it tries to tell. But at the same time, like it is pretty predictable overall. And if you've seen Gurren Lagann, if you've seen Kill la Kill, you know where it goes in the end. Like it's going to like pump up even higher scale, even more hype, even like bigger action.
Probably go to space.
Yeah, go to space. And yeah, I
giant
don't know,
robots, combining giant robots.
yeah, I don't know. Like, it's not a bad thing per se. Like, and it is still fairly unique because like he only produces this show like once a 7 year. But still,
Yeah.
like you've seen this plot trajectory like like 2 times before, and this is the 3rd time. I don't know. Like, it's like, once again, it's not bad. It's like the movie is still fantastic, awesome, but you can't help but feel like it's a little bit derivative in this like regard.
Cav's like, this is the worst 10 out of 10 I've ever seen in my life.
That's totally understandable, but to a certain point, some of that I can see more than others, because to a certain point, some of those factors are just part of what makes an Imaishi work so great. So I feel like if they had diverted too much from that, then it wouldn't have been delivering what Imaishi does best. It wouldn't have, it would have been subverting expectations for the sake of subverting expectations.
Okay, D&D.
Yeah, exactly. We've seen plenty of that, unfortunately, happening with stuff like the final season of Game of Thrones and plenty of other media. There's a time to subvert expectations, which I think Promare does to a decent extent. You're right that it's overall a fairly predictable movie, but there is a time to dig into what you've done before, because it's either a part of who you are as a storyteller, like with Imaishi, or it's part of your identity, and it's part of how you express your ideas.
Something I thought was interesting was I think everyone and their mom predicted that Cray would be the bad guy. Like, they didn't do anything to try and hide that whatsoever. Like, everyone could predict that. But I don't think a lot of people saw him being a Burnish coming. So it's kind of like, diverting our attention one way and then surprising us later on with that. So I think that's a kind of cool way of saying, like, yeah, this part is kind of predictable, but what about this? So I appreciate those aspects. And I definitely appreciate all of the kind of throwbacks to other trigger works, like the drill with Gurren Lagann. And I noticed at one point when they have
She put on a drill just because it seemed like a good idea.
Just because it's a moving triangle.
They also do like the key drill part too to start up the mech.
Yeah, and they had one point with it was, I forget their names, but it was like the chief of their staff was going head to head with the like.
Yeah, Vulcan and Ignis.
Vulcan and Ignis going head to head, and they were just yelling out each other's names, and it felt like the most kill showdown of all time.
That's the dank part. They weren't yelling out each other's names; they were yelling out their own.
Oh, they were.
Yeah.
Also, like, the tech is called Matoi tech. So.
Yeah. So there were like a lot of throwbacks, and I know for some people those can get kind of grating, especially if they've seen a lot of trigger works. I'm not saying that for Cav, but like I know some other friends we've had have been like, I'm getting a bit tired of like constantly seeing that. But, I mean, I'm a sucker for that, and I love seeing just, like, small throwbacks that aren't, like, necessary for the plot, so it's not, like, relying on other films or other TV series to understand those, but I just appreciate the nice little callbacks.
Yeah, I mean,
it's part of their identity.
Also, bringing it back to Cray for a second, can we just talk about his voice?
Yes.
Oh, my.
Holy shit.
Oh, shit.
When he loses it, it's so good.
So it's interesting because it's I think did you see the dub too, or did you just see?
I haven't seen the dub yet. I know it's Crispin.
Yeah, so I'm a sucker, so I went and I saw the sub a couple times, but then I went and saw this dub once, and it's like Crispin Freeman's like ridiculous performance for him. Oh my gosh, he does such an amazing job. It is like a very good dub overall. Like I would totally recommend.
Trigger dubs are generally really good.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna watch it. I think it's coming out in like a couple of weeks.
Yeah, it's coming out. The DVD release, the DVD and Blu-ray, because I forget, no one gets DVDs, is I think it's the beginning of May, like May 9th or something.
Yeah, I pre-ordered it.
Yeah, nice. I got it too. We're in line. We're all ready to get it. I know Billy Kometz is doing Gallo. He does an amazing job. You might know him as Ferdinand von Ayer from Fire Emblem Three Houses. But, the whole cast does a really fantastic job.
It's got JYB as Leo.
JYB is Leo, and he does a great job as him, too. And, like...
Well, he was great in Gurren Lagann as Rashu.
Yeah. Yeah, he does a great job of sounding, like, young but commanding. That's how I always hear his voice. So the dub is really good. But both dub and sub have, like, fantastic voice acting. They really go balls to the wall with that.
Leo
and like all three of the voice actors in the sub are like total not like voice actors.
Yeah, they're like new guys.
They're
so
filmed.
Leo's voice actor has only done Promare. The other two have done a couple other anime credits, but still very few. And like I think Nos, you were just saying as I started to they're film actors, live
Oh
actors.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Kind of like how a lot of Ghibli dubs and other dubs have had like big celebrity names.
Yeah, like Ghibli likes to bring on like Joseph Gordon-Levitt on some stuff.
Christian Bale.
Christian Bale was on it.
ridiculous.
Shia LaBeouf.
I think wasn't what's his face? The dude who's J. Jonah Jameson.
J.K. Simmons.
Yeah, J.K.
yeah.
Simmons was in one, I
Yeah.
think. I think Shia LaBeouf was in one. Daisy
Yeah.
Ridley.
Shia LaBeouf was, yeah.
Shia LaBeouf was in like the redub of Nausicaa.
Yeah.
Ooh.
And it's very dank.
But yeah,
Just do it, Nausicaa!
I do want to talk about a little bit about Cray Forsyth because
Yeah.
while we were on the
Yes.
topic of like weaker side characters, to me, one of the reasons why, to me, like I love Gurren Lagann, I love Promare. Like I'm not knocking Promare for anything, like, but for me, I really liked how developed Rashu was, in the way he was so cold and calculating, in the way like he got fleshed out in the sacrifices, without being too spoiler, the sacrifices he's willing to do for the sake of society. Whereas with Cray, it seemed like originally there was a little bit of that, and then like towards the end, it just like all fell apart, and it was just like the super one-dimensional bad guy. And so, but I think a part of that is also the fact that it's a movie that's under 2 hours. Like you're not going to be able to flesh out everyone incredibly much, but it's just one of those things where like that Imaishi and the team are able to create these really nuanced, in-depth, fleshed out characters, and because even in the same movie, Leo and Gallo are so incredibly fleshed out, but just that like Cray, he could have been like, to me, Cray could have been so much more, and they could have done even more to like almost like reason him out. It's like sometimes there's that one tweet that's been going around. It's like when the villain starts doing his monologue and he starts making a couple of good points.
Yeah.
I was like kind of waiting from that from Cray, but like it's just like all starting to unravel. And again, maybe that's just like a directorial choice, and maybe they were just like, look, we don't want to even lend him any credence to what he was going towards. But to me, I felt like they could have done a little bit more with Cray. And I think, of course, like for all the other side characters, they might have a dozen lines total. But again, it's a movie.
I would agree
Yeah.
with you if he didn't have the aspects where he's a Burnish as well. Because I don't think he needs to have the line where he's like, I don't think he needs to have a monologue for us to understand where he's coming from. Because we do understand the struggle of he's trying to save a small part of humanity just to save some, even if he can't save everyone. Like, it's, I think, almost because we do have Rasu as an example, we don't need him to reiterate everything that Rasio has done to make him feel fleshed out. And I do think they were going in a different direction with him than they were Rasio.
Right.
Who was...
Like they were going in a different direction from Kamina to Gallo.
Yeah, like, I think they
Right.
have similarities between the two, but there is that aspect of him being a Burnish, using his fellow Burnish to save all of humanity who hates them, that I think makes him a lot more nuanced than initially thought.
It's
Right,
that self-loathing that leads to his actions. It's his self-loathing and self-fear. And I would argue against that his unraveling towards the end doesn't make him a one-dimensional villain. It reveals another side of him and adds to the depth to the character that we first are introduced to at the beginning of the film.
Yeah. I definitely see where you guys are coming from. I don't think he's a bad character. And again, like, I loved Promare. It was just one of those things where I still feel like it really felt like when he was unraveling, like he like had it together and it was just like, nah, this was just a ruse. I never really believed in any of this anyway, kind of thing. So I don't know.
I think it's interesting because there are a lot of connections that we'll naturally make between Gurren Lagann, and then I think there are some that are kind of detrimental to both, where it's kind of like, we don't have, like, especially with a lot of the Kamina Gallo comparisons as well, because we're going to talk about that a bit. Like, a lot of people are holding it against Gallo that he's not literally Kamina. And as we were saying before,
which
like,
I think is an improvement, honestly.
Kind of.
yeah.
Sean, I know you. Yeah, I know you have Kamina as like one of your favorite characters of all time. So I know
He's improved on me, but I think it's an interesting. Because I think it's almost kind of like Gallo is almost like Kamina, but then they go in a completely different direction from him. Especially when we see at the beginning of the movie where Kamina if it was Kamina, literal Kamina in his situation, after seeing the pizza guy getting unrightfully arrested, he would have just gone balls to the wall and tried to take all these guys on himself. But with Gallo, they show him really pissed off, wanting to do that, and instead he just goes off to the frozen lake and calms down on his own and is like, I can't make trouble for Cray. He looked out for me. He had my back. Like, I have to think of him first, even though my natural instinct is to go take these guys down. And I think he does have that next level, like, not saying it's better or worse, but he is more thoughtful while combining his personality with that trigger spirit. Like, he's the one to calm Leo down. He's the one to be thoughtful. He's the one to take that next extra step to, not blow up and act purely on instinct, which is interesting because I always took Leo and Gallo as like both sides of the trigger spirit. And together they both have that fiery passion, that burning desire to, do what they think is right, but Leo is more instinct and Gallo is able to take a few steps back, even though he's presented as kind of like the dumbass of the group, which is interesting.
He's the himbo.
Yeah.
It's, oh man. And like, man, they had like so much about Gallo. Like, he's just such a, like, he's just like a dumbass but I loved him. Like, the scene where like Cray's going off is like, I kept trying to kill you, but you kept
wouldn't die.
not dying.
He's endearingly earnest.
Yeah.
Oh, God, I love him. It's like the moron sexual copy pasta. That's that's me for Gallo. And then like when he's like, man, like I just can't do it when they're in the mech, and Leo's like, what do you mean? He's like, look at this mecha, it looks so dumb. Like I can't fight in this dumb looking mecha. Which
yeah, I love that. He's like, this doesn't have the swag.
And then like, yeah, he does that the first time, and then Leo's like, okay, I'll make this better. And then like the second time when they're in the ship, he totally knows that Leo will listen.
Yeah.
This time when he's like, if only I had my Matoi gear, and he's just like looking at him with one eye open, like, come on, you.
There's a great, because especially with the first one, Shaw made a really great observation when we were watching it at AX.
What was my observation? I don't remember.
With the Big Hero 6.
Oh, okay.
Oh, it is kind of...
okay, so the initial draft of it looks like, the initial mech looks like, what's his name from Big Hero 6? Amax. Yeah. So, like, he looks like that, and then that's the one that they're saying looks lame as shit. So I'm like, is Trigger trying to start some beef with Disney over, mech designs? So, I thought that was funny. And Tay told me that some of Trigger staff actually worked on Big Hero 6, so I'm not sure if that's just, like, a nice...
Shigeru Koyama did both designs. He did the mech design for Promare and then the mech designs for Big Hero 6.
So it probably was not meant as a dig then.
No. It was meant as an internal dig at Koyama, like ribbing him. Yeah, like a ribbing him. Like, hey, your design for Baymax was so shit.
Yeah. But I think that's really funny that because if you go back and look at it, it looks just like Himax from Big Hero 6.
Baymax, yeah.
Baymax.
Himax,
Can I remember?
Baymax.
Baymax, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so like, they all have so much fun with each other. It's great. Yeah. And it is really cool getting to see, like, that the fact that I was really kind of worried that people watching Promare for the first time wouldn't enjoy it if they didn't have any like Gurren Lagann Kill la Kill Trigger Gainax background. Just because there are so many callbacks and like, you kind of get where the feel of the story is going to be and the story beats because you've seen it, and so like you feel like, oh, like it's kind of get like, I imagine it'll be like going on like your normal commute once this is all over, like, oh yeah, I remember, like, I used to walk this way all the time and like see certain people and do all that stuff. It's like brings back that nostalgic feeling. But it, like, my friend EMP, who I saw with Shaw at AX, like, he loved it, and he has never seen Gurren Lagann or Kill la Kill, and he was just like, oh, it's good. So like, it's kind of cool to see that even though it has all that trigger spirit, like the trigger spirit is not reliant upon people having seen their shows beforehand.
Yeah, it was cool.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, for sure.
They had a cool thing they said at the panel where they recognized that a lot of people had seen it without seeing Gurren Lagann, and they kind of hoped that if they hadn't seen their other works, Promare would be kind of the gateway for them to go back and experience all the other previous Trigger Gainax works. So they kind of viewed it as almost like, we had Gurren Lagann back then, that brought in a lot of fans. Now we wanted to kind of like present something else to gather new fans. So I'm hoping it'll be successful.
I think it has been because, you know, there was, at least in the West, because, you know, trigger shows, it always feels like as popular as they are in Japan, they're almost even more popular in the West. Like, the West loves Kill la Kill and Gurren Lagann. Like, you know, for a lot of casual anime fans, like, if they've only seen like 10 anime, like, Gurren Lagann and Kill la Kill will be there.
Yeah.
And now Promare too. Just so many people just loving Promare so much and the stuff they do. And I think part of it is because they've put so much emphasis on a dub. Like, the Gurren Lagann dub is pretty good. The Kill la Kill dub is like one of the best I've ever listened to.
It's one of my favorites.
See, I watched Kill la Kill before the dub was finished, so I watched it subbed. This was back when I watched mostly dubbed stuff. So I had seen Gurren Lagann dubbed, loved it. Yeah, I've only seen a couple clips of Kill la Kill dubbed, but it's been impressive from what I've seen.
It's really good.
I've seen it twice in dub now, and it's awesome.
Look, I'm like the biggest sub over dub snob you'll ever. No, I'm not, because I still listen to dubs. But like, you know, jokingly, I'm a pretty big sub over dub snob. Like, I like the Baccano sub over the dub, which is like heretical to say. But the Kill la Kill dub is really, really good. Really, really, really good. I love it. Like, to the point where it's like when someone's like, "Should I watch the sub or dub for Kill la Kill?" Like, part of me is almost like, if you prefer dub, just go dub, which is like a really big deal for me to have to say.
Yeah.
That's
but yeah.
one of them you can, I guess.
Yeah.
So, do we know what Imayushi is doing next?
Nope.
Is he involved in Inferno? There is an Inferno Cop second season.
I don't know if he's involved in Brand New
Exactly.
Animal. That's what's coming out now.
That's
Yo
Yoshinari.
Yoshinari, who also did Little Witch Academia.
Yep.
Yeah.
But you know, even
and he's not involved in the Gridman sequel.
No.
That's
Because and the Gridman sequel is like a different AU, like different iteration of Gridman as well, kind of like how Tokusatsu always do it. But yeah. So it's not going to be like what we're assuming anyway is Dynamon. I don't even remember how to say it.
Dynazenon?
Yeah,
it's literally Dyna and Xenon put together.
Dynazenon,
or Dynazenon.
Yeah.
Dynazenon.
Remember when everyone started calling this Promare? Because we were like, that's going to be the Japanese pronunciation for it. And then they had to be like, no. We took it from like the mare from Nightmare. And we put... And we were
from
like,
Prometheus.
Yeah.
I've had so many friends say like I had no idea it was pronounced Promare, and they're like appalled that it's not Promare.
I know.
Promare does sound more high class, but you know we're Trigger. We're doing Promare.
Promare. Yeah.
Promare.
Yeah. It's Trigger. They cater so much to the West, and it is really awesome to see how well this did in theaters in the US. Like, so many reshowings. Like, they even had like the special cheer versions of the showing.
I heard about that. Yeah,
that's
because
crazy.
those are a big thing in Japan. Like, special showings, not for all of them, of course. Like,
yeah,
you know, a lot of people just want to go to the movie and just see the movie, but some people want to go and like kind of turn into idol concert, which is cool, which is awesome. They have like specific call outs. It's kind of like the Rocky Horror Picture Show that we have here in the US.
Yeah.
And they brought that over to the US. G Kids did, which was awesome. And you know, big friends of the podcast. We're really glad that they're bringing so many awesome anime over to the US. And it was just really cool that they had those, and they had like karaoke versions of the movie as well, where you could sing along to the ED, and it was just so much fun. It was just so much joy in the anime promotion of it, where a lot of times it feels like some of it is just like either just
robotic.
Yeah, it's either robotic or it's like almost shameful. Like, oh, we don't want to show it. It's like limited engagement, only 1-day event in the entire US.
Yeah, G Kids low-key kills it. Mm-hmm. They do a great job.
They did a really good job with Weathering with You. Much better than I felt like Funimation did with Your Name. But yeah, which is why I was really glad that, like, you know, Promare had such a wide viewing experience, because like if this had, you know, let's say had like a 1-day showing and only had like, you know, 7 theaters in the US, not like, you know, another licensor did with another popular anime film recently, not naming any names, it's just a pure hypothetical. But I feel like there wouldn't be as much hype and support and love for it. But because like, you know, I know so many, like I went to see it 4 times, you know, like
Yeah.
and it's just like, you know, so many other people were like, oh yeah, we've gone to see it like every week it's been out. When like even the concept of having an anime run for a week in theaters was such a crazy idea. And I'm sure they would have done it even more if it wasn't even for coronavirus.
Yeah, because they wanted to have another showing in April before the Blu-ray came out,
Yep.
and then they had to shut
cancel
it
it.
down.
I
I
know.
think they're having a digital showing, though. Like,
They are. Yeah, they're doing a remote showing.
Which is
Yeah.
so cool to think about. Like, you know, like what other movie have we seen get like that kind of press? I think Funimation recently said they're going to try to do something with that with the Bunny Girl Senpai movie, but like, you know, there's level to it.
Well, we've seen other anime. It's been nice overall to see anime films. Oops, sorry, my mic. Cut that. Redo. It's been nice to see a lot of anime films get a lot more attention and longer runs recently, but a lot of them have been with established, really popular franchises, like the Dragon Ball Super Broly movie, which ran for like forever and a day. And that's not enough. It's a good movie. I haven't even seen any other Dragon Ball, and I went to see that with this guy. I
Wait,
was
really?
dating. Yeah, literally
Dude.
no other Dragon Ball. This guy I was seeing really liked Dragon Ball and wanted to see it, so I'm like, yeah, sure. And it gave just enough backstory. He helped me too. But I really enjoyed the movie. It was fun.
Oh, the OG Broly movie is so good too. Oh man, all the Dragon Ball movies. But yeah.
But that and the My Hero Academia movie had a lot of success and ran for a long time. It was really, really cool to see Promare, a completely original property, albeit one that still had some recognition from the staff, but not nearly as much broad recognition as those established franchises. To see a movie, a property like that do so successfully is a testament both to its quality and G-Kids' fantastic handling of it.
Right, like look at your name from a couple years back, like, you know, like highest grossing film in Japan that year, and like, you know, like a 1 week showing in the US with everyone clamoring to be able to see it as well. But yeah,
we had to literally drive to another state from where I was going to college to see it.
jeez. But yeah, you know, with G-Kids we were able to, you know, they had like theaters everywhere. It was crazy. Like I remember I was thinking like, oh man, because there's this one theater in New York City that does a lot of anime films. That Sean and I've seen like Kizumonogatari and A Silent Voice in. It's a great theater, but I was like, man, I'm gonna have to go all the way down there just to see Promare for the second time. And it was like, I went online, I was like, no, there's like 3 theaters within like 3 blocks of me in the heart of New York City that are showing it, which was awesome.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, it's really cool to see. It's cool to see the impact it's had on theater viewing experiences and the frequency that anime films have been in various theaters. I'm sorry it wasn't more worldwide outside of the US and Japan, but I think it's a cool start. So maybe by the time we have the next one, even Cav will be able to see them in Russia.
I don't know. Maybe there were some screenings of it, but I just do not really like going to cinema all that much. And just even if I went here, I believe I would be like probably the only one watching Promare here, like in the house theater.
That would be great. It's like your own private theater.
You wouldn't have the dude that sat next to
oh wait, no, I want to hear about the guy who sat next to you.
Yeah, this is hyped up.
God. Okay. So, yeah, I get there. I went alone because nobody from my apartment wanted to see it or anything. So I went alone. But I sat down, and this guy comes in. He sits next to me, immediately turns to me, and he says, "Hey, did you know the guy who did the OST for this movie did the OST for Kill la Kill and Attack on Titan?" And that's when I knew. I'm not gonna look at this guy again.
Did you?
And
Nas,
then
did you
2 minutes
know?
Later, 2 minutes oh, I knew. 2 minutes later, he turns and says, "Did you know it was directed by the same people that made Kill la Kill?" And I was like,
Did you?
That's
another 2 minutes passed without the movie starting. He's like, "Hey, so what are you gonna watch in this fall season? Are you watching Doctor Strange Vinland Saga?" He pulls out AniChart on his phone, and he starts to go through all of the airings for that season. Then the movie
Wait,
starts.
was he hitting on you? I mean, Nas. I
I
know
think he was
you're
trying to
pretty-
weep
So
check him.
I have a suspicion that he sat down next to me because he might have thought I was a girl because I have my hair in a bun.
Ooh, I mean, you are really cute too. So
But yeah, so like
That's
So you got
that's
the-
most of the
type
movie
dude.
goes off without a hitch. Towards the end, when like all the burnished flares are rising up out of the planet, he just stands up and shouts, "Does anybody else remember Darling in the Franxx?"
Dude!
Okay.
No!
No.
and then at the very end of the movie, this is the real kicker. This is so out of nowhere too. It was like he turns, he says, "Now wasn't that soundtrack better than 90% of movies? Do you think Avengers Endgame had a better soundtrack than this?"
wait, so you
I never saw that dude ever again. But
so you
oh
you,
my
you just
God.
got
Bless
mansplained
God.
so hard throughout an entire. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's the
the
that's
fact
the
that
type of
the
dude.
fact that I sat through that and this movie is like my third favorite of all time. This, like I can't believe I came out on the other side like that.
That's the type of dude who's seen like 50 anime and tries to like flex on everyone else.
He's trying
They're
to
like,
flex
oh,
on
you
you.
probably haven't heard of this really like niche anime. It's really good. It's called Erased. Like, I'm pretty
Oh,
sure
God.
you know the people I'm talking about.
Oh,
I had a
man.
funny theater experience, but it was actually for Weathering with You and not Promare. But I got there with my mom, and there were some like actual teenagers in the back, and they were having like an anti-Twitter conversation, and one dude just kept going like,
God.
"Bro, My Hero Academia fell off. I'm telling you, you guys are hyping this
Mid.
up, but this is some mid shit. Like, yeah, it was good in season 2, but then after then it fell off, and I
Wait,
was
Shaw,
like."
I was in your theater? Or
Yeah, right. Yeah. And that's the story of how Fate was in my theater. But that's amazing. You overcame adversity, Nas, and still like this film.
I don't know.
But-
I felt like Nos just made a new friend, no?
I just
Nas,
like the
why didn't you
expanding-
invite this guy onto the podcast? He's clearly incredibly knowledgeable
Yeah.
about anime.
Hey, maybe if he listens to this and he's out there,
Bless up.
he knows.
Bless up.
Hello.
Yo,
Also, hi, I
add
hope
us
you
on
enjoyed the
Twitter if
movie.
you are the person who saw this. What city was this, Nas, if you don't mind me asking? Atlanta. If you were in hot Atlanta and you decided to mansplain to a very cute individual with their hair in a bun throughout the entirety of Darling in France and not Darling in France, during Promare, and then brought up Darling in the Franxx for no fucking reason, please let
Wait,
us
you said
know
he
in
like
the comments.
yelled it out, like
At
like
the end of the film?
It was like towards the end when like the Parnassus. Oh, that was another thing. Parnassus was like it was like this mountain in Greece, and it was the home of the Muses. I think. Sorry, that was just something that came to mind. But yeah, when it was like about to lift off and all the flares were starting to come out, that's when he yelled it. And I haven't seen Darling in the
Don't.
Franxx, so I don't like know. But that was that.
You're
That apparently
mixing
triggered
out.
something. in
how
him?
did he just like stand like in any context? It's not even like cheering. He's like it's like he's
Does
at a
anyone-
concert and he's like, "Yo, is anyone remember Darling in the Franxx?" And it's everyone's around like, "What are you doing?"
What if that's just his thing? What if he's like, maybe people will like me? He's like, he's seen Naruto, and he's like, yo, people really like Naruto when he said believe it. What
I'm gonna
if
say
people-
believe it.
He's like, what if I just say, does anyone remember Darling in the Franxx? And people
I just-
will like me.
I hope he's a DJ and this is what he uses to like hype people up. He's like yelling
If
into
you
this
remember
crowd.
Darling in the Franxx, put your
No one
hands
remembers
up.
it.
Put your
No one
hands
says
up.
anything, and then he just drops the beat. Like no one remembers the shit.
I just wish everyone
amazing.
just kind of, when they heard him, quietly stepped up and went out of the cinema. Like,
No, but then they
no.
would miss out on Promare.
Yeah, you don't want to miss the end of Promare.
But what if it's someone's trigger word and they hear "Darling in the Franxx" and they're like, "We're gonna bolt. We are out."
I mean,
that would have
we're
been.
done.
I mean, if it didn't remind you of Darling in the Franxx, are you even a Trigger fan?
Oh my god, this is so triggering.
Oh my gosh.
But
Yeah.
I will say,
Nail in
I
the
have a
coffin.
confession to make about my Promare watching experience. It was the 4th time I went to see it, and I was like super tired. I went to see it with a friend of mine. It was right after work. I had been up for like the 44 of the previous 48 hours. And, like I went in, and I like legit like passed out after like the first. I was so tired, but I was like, I gotta see this. I passed out after the first fight scene, and then I just remember like something in me being so disappointed and shameful of myself that I bolted awake, and then it was like right in time for Gallo dropping Aina and like the cave scene with Leo, I was like, oh yes, no, this is what I should be awake for.
Truly, he became.
Is this when we
Literally.
expose you for other films you enjoy that you've fallen asleep during?
I did not fall asleep during Listen to Bluebird.
You
I almost
told
fell.
You told me you did.
No.
my
I was in Kyoto, and I was with a good friend of mine, and we went to see Listen to Bluebird, and they gave everyone a pillow and blankets, and it was like a really like cozy theater, and like outside it was like just throughout a thunderstorm. I had been in Japan for like 3 days. It's a really quiet, subtle movie, and I was just like, oh man, am I gonna pull a Promare here? So I didn't.
I'm sorry.
though.
I'm gonna have to ask you to give up your weeb card.
Oh no, not my
Just
weeb card. It's okay.
At
I'll
the
give it to the
very
guy.
least-
I'll give it to the guy in Atlanta. He can have my weeb card.
He needs it. Or at least you got to give up your KyoAni
Yamada
stand card. Like,
Oh no!
seriously,
But I
you
didn't
were
fall
in-
asleep. I did it. I promise.
You were in Kyoto watching
I
a
know.
Kyoto animation film.
I know.
And you almost
I didn't fall asleep though. I didn't. There were no
Shame.
subtitles either. So, apparently they don't have English subtitles in Japan for Japanese films. So surprising.
Whoa.
What?
So inconsiderate.
Them.
I
You
know.
shouldn't need subtitles for Liz and the Bluebird. You can just
I know, but
feel-
actually,
you can just feel the plot through the music.
I could just
okay?
feel the gay through the music. It's
Oh,
just-
you can
of course
always feel the gay through the music.
Yes. But also, because Shah has alluded to this, one of the reasons why I feel like I love Trigger so much is because they're so engaged with the anime community as well. Like, they really respect where they came from, and, like, not only through, like, giving away, like, Shikishi to Shaw, and, like, to a couple other viewers at AX, and, like, like, these are, like, really, like, honestly priceless things that they make that, like, people in Japan, like, you can't get, and, like, you can only get by going to the theater experiences, but that's how much they value the Western input as well. But, like, in Japan, they're also at, like, Comic-Con all the time, like, all the animators and all the like Imaishi Shigeto Koyama, like all the big name people are there as well, but also like the animators, like Kengo Saito, who's done a lot of stuff on Gridman and Promare and Gurren Lagann, Kill la Kill. Like, he sells a book every year, every Comic-Con that has all his like animation works, and like all the key animation
incredible.
frames that he did. And I have it. It's like so cool because like you get to see like the work and the art they put in, and like I was really lucky enough on one of the days of Comic-Con to be able to go to the Trigger booth, and Imaishi and Shigeto Koyama were there, and I was like, they were like so chill and like chatting with everyone and taking selfies and like saying hi and like really personable. It was also really interesting because like, you would think with such a large anime name to themselves and a brand, like their booth would be absolutely crowded, and I'm sure it was like early in the day, but in the end, like it was like, it was just like the same as everyone else, and they had like no ego. They were just there to have fun and enjoy, and so I was able to talk to Shigeto Koyama and like be like, oh, like saw you guys at ANYC, at AIX, at Anime Next. Thanks so much for saving New Jersey. And I was like, oh, by the way, like, my best friend won a Shikishi at AX, and, like, his eyes, like, lit up, and he's like, yo, wait, you were at AX? And he goes to the other people at Trigger, he's like, yo, come over here. Like, this is one of the people whose friends won one of the Shikishi. He's like, do you have a picture to see what Shikishi she got? And I was like, oh, yeah, and they're, like, all looking through it, and they were, like, super passionate about a random weeb from the US going to Comic-Con who didn't even win a Shikishi, whose friend won a Shikishi.
I thought
I
you
was
were
just-
calling Shaw a random weeb for a second.
I am a random weeb.
You're calling yourself a random weeb. That's okay.
No,
Yes.
I'm also I'm Random Weeb's best friend, fellow Random Weeb. It's
Yes.
like Sound Person B, Random Weeb B.
Don't ever talk to me or my random weeb again.
I just think that's
Tom
amazing that
Person
you had
A,
like
yeah.
a conversation with them, and they were like excited about it.
Yeah.
Like, that's so cool.
It's awesome. And they had a Patreon open for their worldwide fans to contribute too. Like like you said, they obviously are very engaged and love their fans, which is awesome.
The second Little Witch Academia OVA was like funded through Kickstarter. Which
Yeah.
is,
Oh, I didn't
like,
know that.
Yeah. So like, it was a Kickstarter, and they were like, "Hey, like these are our goals," and like it blew through all the stretch goals like immediately. And they're like, "Hey, like if you guys put in like an extra, I don't know, like $10,000, it'll be like another 20 minutes longer." And then like within 10 minutes, like everyone would meet that goal. And they're like, "Okay, let's keep pushing to see how long we can make this Little Witch Academia OVA," which is why it ended up being like an hour and a half when they originally thought it'd be like 30 minutes.
Yeah, it's literally a feature-length film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, you know.
Speaking of feature-length, I saw while I was looking through some stuff while we were discussing that Promare is actually much longer than I thought. I thought it was
doesn't feel that long.
Yeah, I thought it was just another hour and a half, anime movie. It's an hour and 51 minutes.
Yep.
There's an extra 20 on there.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't feel that long, but it works out well. So I think we talked a lot about this, but it's, I think we covered a lot. We have a lot of thoughts on this film, and I think it's just really fun to talk to you guys about it since we're all so enthusiastic about it too. And, get everyone's different interpretations of it, because I've had a lot of fun talking with all of you about it before this podcast, just getting different takes on it and enjoying it in different ways. Did you guys have anything else you wanted to say that we didn't get to before?
I just want to say that I hope that the next work of Imaishi won't have us waiting for 7 more years.
Yeah.
I did my waiting. 7 years of it.
Yeah, no more waiting so long. Let's see what he does next. In a few years.
It's been a smashing success, like in many ways, and especially like commercially. So I hope they are not short on money now, and will have an ability to expand and hopefully make even more awesome stuff, movies and series as well.
Yeah.
But you can probably go to their Patreon to donate and help.
Yeah.
Their Patreon, I think, is more focused on merch and stuff, but still.
Every dollar counts.
Every dollar counts. Or yen.
Or yen, we don't discriminate here. Or, I don't even remember, what were it, like, Promopolis bucks or whatever? I don't know.
Promopolis?
Oh, no, it was Trigger bucks. That's what I was...
Every Trigger bucks counts.
Trigger dollars. Yeah, the stuff they were throwing out into the crowd to bring it full circle.
Yeah.
I don't think they'd appreciate you donating Trigger dollars.
Yeah, just give it back to them.
I don't think that helps them.
Hand it back and be like, "Here's for the Blu-ray. Thank you very much. We'll be back."
Wait, sorry.
But yeah, I said all I wanted to say. It was a very fun experience. Blu-rays are coming out on sale in May. I hope people get it and check it out if they haven't already.
You could also get the Amazon.co.jp version of the limited edition Blu-ray, and ships worldwide with pretty cheap shipping as well. It's a lot more pricey, but like the limited edition features are like really worth it. And it also comes with English subtitles, even the Japanese version.
Interesting. Whoa. I didn't know that.
Nice. Yeah. That's surprising, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, would recommend. But also would recommend the G-Kids version, which I haven't seen, but like if you just, you don't care about the bells and whistles and you just want the film itself, like for sure get the Blu-ray. Or the DVD, if you prefer DVDs, and 480p for some reason.
Watching anime below 720.
Imagine watching anime that's in 4:3 aspect ratio, that's not in 1080p. Come on. Or isn't interpolated 60 FPS.
Don't attack our culture like that.
Don't make me sick with that 60 FPS BS. God damn.
Yeah.
See, 4x3 is fine.
Yeah. Well, I had fun. I hope you guys all
Josh
had
is
fun.
like, you guys, shut up. I had fun.
I had fun until right now. Yeah, I had fun until Fate started attacking some of my favorite old anime like that. Not okay. But
you like interpolated 60 FPS anime?
No, you said 4:3 aspect ratio.
Oh, I was memeing.
No, you're not. No,
I love 4:3 aspect anime.
You guys, you better watch out. I got Cav and Nas. We are all Gintama stands. We outnumber you guys. You guys are on watch.
I thought you were talking about Monster, actually.
Monster
Wait, really?
2.
Oh,
Monster's
great. Monster's great.
Evangelion's great.
Also,
Card Captor Sakura is great.
From the start, so
Gunbuster is great.
So, no 4:3 hate.
Yes.
Even though Fate doesn't mean it. Some people out there do. So
if Fate is always memeing, is he ever memeing?
Oh my god.
That's true. And on that note, we leave you with the philosophical questions to bring you into the next trigger work.
Yes.
I'm Shaw. This is Fate, Crispy, Cav, and Nas, and we had a great time talking about Promare.
Chris and Nas, how can people find you on the internet if they want to listen to more of your talks, or they want to admit that they were the person sitting next to you in an Atlanta theater?
How do we matchmake?
Well, you can follow me on Twitter at Crispy294. I do some casual game streaming at twitch.tv/Crispy294. Don't expect anything fancy, but if you want to come along for me being a doofus while playing video games, hop on in.
And how about you, Nas?
Well, I'm just on Mal, AnyList, Discord is Nasreem. Twitter, that was taken, so I went with the Kanye pun, ultralight ream.
This is an ultralight
ream.
ream. This is a god ream. This is a god meme ream. You gotta love it. And, you know. Oh, Shaw, where can people find you?
I guess on Twitter at Shocking807.
You sounded so pained, like, promoting yourself.
I was like, do I give them Discord
if
or Twitter?
If you want to follow me.
I feel bad. It's
if you
like,
want to follow me, I'm like the most popular person on any Twitter right now.
No,
like, my mentions are always blowing up. Like, my engagements are through the roof.
This is weird.
I mean, I'm literally Crispy294 on, like, everything. So if you go somewhere and you see a Crispy294, that's me. Almost
That's
certainly.
you.
Well, Fate, where can people find you?
Well, they can find me on the R Anime Podcast, which you're listening to right now, on YouTube at youtube.com/the R Anime Podcast. Also on Spotify, Google Podcasts, iTunes, Stitcher, and more, wherever you listen to podcasts. There we will be also. And you can also, you know, if you like the environmentalist themes in Promare, as well as rising against a fascist anarchic government, we're also going through a playthrough of Final Fantasy VII on the Twitch channel at twitch.tv/Tokyo Podfathers. You can follow me at on Twitter at FateSealTaylor, but really all you have to do is follow Shaw, because she just RTs all my actually good tweets, so you don't have to filter out the bad tweets I make too.
You do not want to see the bad tweets.
I'm gonna
Cam, how
retweet
about
only
you?
the
People
bad
want to
tweets.
snuggle up with you in Russia, or at least do it remotely. How can they do so?
This is where Cav drops his anonymous Twitter.
I mean, it's not very anonymous. It's really easy to find if you want to. I mean, the name is here out in the open. But yeah, you can contact me on Discord or Mail or AnyList or even Reddit, because I read it up here as well. Yeah.
Yeah, because we are the R Anime Podcast, and you can also join our Discord. The link is down below.
Yeah. So thank you for that. Thank you to everyone for listening in. If you thought we didn't cover something about Promare that you want to discuss, please leave it in the comment below. And
if Promare Podcast was so good, where's Promare Podcast 2?
Stay tuned, right? So on that note, I hope everyone stays safe, stay healthy, and stay indoors and watch Promare. So on that note, have a good night, everyone.
Bye-bye.
See ya.
Dab.